Alrighty, we are talking about solving systems of equations using the substitution method, excuse me. Okay, so when we're talking about substitution, think of it literally like if your teacher is gone and someone comes to replace them. Okay, that's literally what this method is talking about. We're replacing something with something else. Okay, so it's asking us to solve each system by substitution. And we did talk about this last year, so this might be a little bit of a review. That's okay. So we notice, looking at number 1, okay? So looking at number 1, we can see that it says y equals and y equals, meaning they're both equal to y. Well, we know that y equals y. Those are the same things. Okay, so this is where the substitution piece comes in. Since they're both equal to y, they both equal each other. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set them equal to each other and solve. This is actually going to take away the y's, so all we're dealing with are x's, because we can't solve an equation with an x and a y. We need just one of them. Okay, so I'm going to take the first piece, negative 7x plus 7, and I'm going to set it equal to the second piece, negative 3x minus 1. Okay, now I can solve this equation. Okay, so first thing I want to do is move all of my x's to one side. Remember, I like moving the smaller amount, okay? Meaning which one is less, negative 7x's or negative 3x's? Well, negative 7x's is less, so I'm going to move it by doing the opposite, so adding 7x's. Okay, that gets rid of it over there, moved it over there. So now I have 7 equals negative 3x plus 7x gives me positive 4x and minus 1. Looking better and better each step. Okay, so now I can finish out solving for x. Okay, so the first thing I got to get rid of on this side to get x by itself is this negative 1. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Add 1. So I'm going to come right here. We have 8 is equal to 4x. Okay, my very last step for solving, opposite of times by 4 is divide by 4. Okay, so I get x is equal to 8 divided by 4, which is 2. Now, remember, this is not our whole answer because we also need to know what y is. Remember that our full answer, okay, our final answer should be a coordinate point, x comma y. Well, we know the x part. We found that. That's 2. But now we need the y part. So now I'm going to take this 2 and plug it into just one of these guys. And I can't really tell which one's easier to plug in, so I'm just going to plug it in right there. So what this means, I now have y equals negative 3, what was an x, now is times by 2, minus 1. Okay, so now I can solve for the y part. So I have negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 minus 1 more is negative 7. Okay, so I have both pieces now, which means the y part of my coordinate is negative 7. So my final answer is a coordinate point 2 comma negative 7. Beautiful. Okay, so let's try that again. Number 2. Since they are both equal to y, they equal each other. Okay, so I'm going to take my first one, 3x minus 24, set it equal to my next one, x minus 8. Okay, I need all my x's on one side, so I'm going to move the smaller amount, 3 and 1. Well, 1 is smaller, so I'm going to subtract the 1, x. That's going to give me 2x over here, minus 24 equals negative 8. Beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of my negative 24. That's the first thing I got to do. So I'm going to add 24 to both sides. I get 2x is equal to, let's see, negative 8 plus 24 is going to give me positive 16. Okay, very last step to get my x, divide by 2, divide by 2. So I know that my x is equal to 16 divided by 2, which is 8. Now remember, this isn't our full answer. okay, because we need our answer to be a coordinate point. We just have the x part of my coordinate point right now, which we found was 8. Okay, so I'm going to take this x part, plug it in. The bottom one looks a little easier, so I'm going to plug it in right there. So now I have y is equal to, plug it in, plug 8 in for x, 8 minus 8. Well, that's pretty easy. We know that 8 minus 8 is equal to 0. So there's the y part of my coordinate point. So my final answer is 8, 0. Perfect. Okay, number 3. Again, they are equal to each other. Or, excuse me, they are both equal to y, which means they're equal to each other. So we have 4x plus 4 equals negative 4x minus 20. Okay, let's move all of our x's to one side. So out of positive 4 and negative 4, I know negative 4 is the smaller amount, so I'm going to add 4. Do the opposite, add 4 x's. It's going to give me 8 x's plus 4 equals negative 20 left over there. Okay, now I can solve for x. First, I got to get rid of that plus 4, so I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. I get 8x is equal to negative 24. And my last step for solving for the x part, opposite of times by 8 is divide by 8 on both sides. So I get x is equal to negative, I believe, 24 divided by 8, 3. Negative 3. Okay, now remember, we don't stop there. That is only the x part of my coordinate point. I need the y part as well. So let's take what we found for x, which is negative 3, and plug it in to whichever one you want. For me, actually, the top one seems a little easier, so I'm going to plug it in there. So now I have y is equal to 4 times x. Well, now it's 4 times negative 3 plus 4. Okay, we simply took that x that we found, plugged it in where our x was on the top one. So now I have y is equal to negative 12 plus 4. I just multiplied those guys together. So I know that y is equal to negative 8. So I found the y part of my coordinate point. So my final answer is negative 3, negative 8. Beautiful. Yeah. Alrighty. So let's try that again. Just make sure to bring it back, Grand. Okay, so they're both equal to y, which means they are equal to each other. Okay, so I'm going to take my top one, negative 4x minus 21, set it equal to my bottom guy, negative 5. Okay, and this guy is actually, we don't have to move all my x's to one side because they're already all on one side. So I can just start solving this guy. So the first thing I got to get rid of is negative 21. So I do the opposite, positive 21. Okay, so I have negative 4x equals positive 16. Okay, so now I have my last step for solving for x. The opposite of times by negative 4 is divide by negative 4. So I know that my x is equal to 16 divided by negative 4, which is negative 4. Okay, remember this is only the x part of my coordinate point. We also need the y part. Okay, so we're going to take what we found for x, which is negative 4, and we're going to plug it in to whichever one you want. Actually, we don't even have a choice because does my bottom one have an x that I can plug it in? Nope, so I have to choose my top one. So I have y equals negative 4 times x, but now we know it's negative 4, minus 21. Okay, so now we just simplify this guy. Y is equal to, well, negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, minus 21. Well, 16 minus 21 is negative 5. So the y part of my coordinate point is -5. And that is my final answer. Remember, always when you're solving systems of equations, your answer is a coordinate point, x comma y, x comma y. Okay, number 5. They are both equal to y, which means they are equal to each other. So I have -6x minus 9 equal to +8x plus 19. Okay, I have x's on both sides, which means I'm going to have to move them all to one side. Move the smaller one. So out of -6 and +8, I know -6 is less, or the smaller, so I'm going to do the opposite. Add 6. Add 6. I get -9 is equal to, let's see, 14x plus 19. Okay. So now we can solve for x on this side. First thing I got to do is get rid of +19. So I'm going to subtract 19 from both sides. I get 14x is equal to -9 minus 19 is -28. Okay, last step, opposite of times by 14 is divide by 14. So I know my x is equal to -28 divided by 14 is -2. Okay, so we have our x part of our coordinate point, which is -2. We now need our y. So I'm going to take -2, plug it into whichever one you want because they both have x's. I'm going to choose the bottom one just because it's all positives. So I have y is equal to 8 times x. Well, we know x is -2. And plus 19. Okay, now I just go ahead and simplify. Y is equal to 8 times -2 is -16. Plus 19, well, -16 plus 19 is +3. So we know that the y part of my answer, or my coordinate point, is 3. So final answer, 2, 3, or -2, 3, excuse me. Okay, number 6. Okay, a lot of practice, just getting better with each practice. So they're both equal to y, which means they equal each other. 6x minus 11 equals -7x plus 15. Okay, you have x's on both sides, so let's move them all to one side. Move the smaller one. Now +6 and -7. -7 is less, it is smaller. Okay, so we do the opposite, add 7x. Okay, so now we get 13x minus 11 equals +15. Okay, now we can start solving for x, trying to get it by itself. So first thing I got to get rid of is -11. So I'm going to add 11 to both sides. I get 13x is equal to 26. Okay, my last step for getting x by itself, opposite of times by 13 is divide by 13. So I know x is equal to +2. Okay, so coordinate point, my x is +2. Now we just need the y. Okay, so to find the y, we just take what we found for x equals 2, plug it into whichever one you want. Again, I like the top one just because it's a +6. So y equals +6 times our x, which we know is 2, minus 11. Okay, so then we simplify. Y equals 6 times 2 is 12. Well, 12 minus 11 is just 1. So we know the y part of our coordinate point, or our answer, is 1. 2, 1. Beautiful. Okay, number 7. Excuse me, last two examples. Okay, they're both set equal to y, which means they equal each other. So we have -4x plus 10 equals 7x minus 1. Okay, Okay, we have x's on both sides, so let's move them all to one side. Move the smaller one. We know that negative 4 is smaller than positive 7, so do the opposite of it. Add 4x, add 4x. So we get 10 is equal to 11x minus 1. Okay, now we can start solving for x. First thing I got to get rid of is that negative 1. So we do the opposite. We add 1 to both sides. I get 11 equals 11 times x. Okay, last step, opposite of times by 11 is divide by 11. So I get x is equal to positive 1. So the x part of my coordinate point is 1. Now we just need the y part. Okay, so let's take what we found for x, which is 1, plug it into whichever one you want. I like the bottom one. Okay, so let's do y equals 7 times our x, which we found was 1, minus 1. Okay, so y equals 7 times 1 is 7. 7 minus 1 is 6. So we know that the y part of our coordinate point is positive 6. Perfect. One more example. They're both set equal to y, which means they equal each other. So we have negative 5x minus 18 equals negative 6x minus 20. Okay, x is on both sides, which means we need to move them all to one side. I like moving the smaller one. Okay, this one might be a little tricky. Which one's smaller, negative 5 or negative 6? Okay, well, negative 6 is less than negative 5. So this guy's our smaller one, so do the opposite. Add 6x, add 6x. Okay, negative 5 plus 6 is just going to be positive 1, or positive 1x. Minus 18 equals negative 20. Okay, now there's just one step for getting x by itself. I got to get rid of minus 18. We'll do the opposite. Add 18. So we get x is equal to negative 20 plus 18 is negative 2. So we know that the x part of our coordinate point is negative 2. Now we just need the y part. Okay, so let's take our x that we found, plug it into whichever one you want. I can't really tell which one's easier, so we'll just do the bottom. Y equals negative 6 times x. Well, our x is negative 2. And minus 20. Okay, then we simplify. Y equals negative 6 times negative 2 is positive 12. So then positive 12 minus 20 is going to give me negative 8. So we know that the y part of my coordinate point is negative 8. Negative 2, comma, negative 8. There are your notes. There's an assignment that goes with it.